At 7:50 a.m., a Russian column left the tree line, tracks bit into wet soil, radios hummed alive. Then the signal vanished and silence took over. On the morning of the 16th of October, 2025, a column of Russian armored vehicles had just left the Malanifa area. It included a main group of 11 tanks and armored fighting vehicles and was quietly moving toward Shakov. That was where Russian artillery was positioned to support an advance toward Doilia. From a tactical and logistics perspective, the column was a compact sustainment package. The lead group comprised 6 vehicles, 2 T-72B3s, 3 BMP-2S, and 1 BR-DM-2 reconnaissance vehicle. The center group listed 8 vehicles, 2 BRM-1K command vehicles, 2 Ural 4320 ammunition trucks, 3 MTLBS towing field repair trailers, and 1 auxiliary fuel truck. The rear group contained 8 vehicles, 3 BMP-3s, 2 T-9A tanks, and 3 KAMAZ fuel trucks. The total estimated logistics load exceeded 15 tons of rounds, explosives, fuel, and technical equipment. About 12 tons consisted of 122mm artillery rounds, roughly 320 to 360 shells, enough to sustain the artillery cluster for around 72 continuous hours. Additionally, 21,000 liters of diesel were carried across 3 KAMAZ trucks, supplying fuel for tanks, artillery, and mechanized units for 2 to 3 days of continuous operations. The field repair node transported welding gear, recovery equipment, spare track sets, a generator, and technical first response systems. The 2 BRM-1K command vehicles carried command and control communication suites capable of coordinating artillery, UAVs, and infantry teams in the area. Moving at an organized cruising speed of roughly 40 kilometers per hour in a half-combat, half-logistics formation, the column had just left the cover of a fixed air defense complex. It would be exposed for the next 20 to 25 minutes across an open depression framed by sparse reeds and pine forest. It was a terrain with no observation posts before the rally point on Shakov's edge. Unknown to the column, an electronic fire control network across the border had already locked onto their movement. From a ridge 9 kilometers to the southwest, a Furia reconnaissance UAV had trailed the formation for 15 minutes. It was recording speeds, formation order, and the exact moment each vehicle crossed fixed markers. Its integrated FLIR sensors analyzed engine temperatures to determine which vehicles were heavily loaded and which served as command platforms. All data were encrypted and streamed directly to the forward artillery control center. That was where a 3-layer ambush plan had been prepared, and the commander's screen presented clear targeting solutions. Reconnaissance had surveyed the route early. The chosen road offered asymmetric concealment. One side was masked by forest and hidden from radar, while the opposite side opened into fields with no turning points. This environment had been assessed as ideal for staging a 3-tier strike with almost no chance of escape. Ukraine's kamikaze FPV detachments had been emplaced at dawn, each detachment consisting of 2 drones concealed in abandoned residential structures north of Shakov. Low terrain with dense shrubbery and rice paddies provided good camouflage. Each FPV carried a 2.5 to 3.0 kilogram penetrator warhead and was programmed to self-destruct after 4 minutes if it failed to hit. Guidance systems were tuned using orthophotography maps from the Furia UAV. This allowed the drones to fly low over the paddies, avoid RF exposure, and bypass temporary emitter nodes the Russians had placed along the route. At the same time, an engineering team set up remote-detonated charges, PTKM-1R and TM-62 mines. These were not meant to destroy vehicles outright. Their goal was to create mistakes. When a front wheel hit a mine, the vehicle would either veer into open ground, stop, or scatter. These reactions opened gaps in the formation and isolated command or ammunition vehicles. Once separated, they became high-value targets. Timing was critical. 1 minute late, and the column might reach hamlets or terrain that spoiled firing solutions. 1 minute early, and the artillery would miss. Hit at the right moment, damaging 2 or 3 key vehicles, and the spearhead would be forced to stop. 3 kilometers from the axis of advance, a Mavic 3 drone flew at about 120 meters. It tilted to keep a tight tracking angle. Its GPS data, live imagery, and target recognition tools let surveillance teams track heat trails and vehicle spacing. In infrared, The BRM-1K command vehicle appeared as a steady, high-intensity heat signature. Its communications gear kept it hot and constant. A tarped fuel truck at the rear showed a long, bright streak from pressurized pumps against the cooler ground. At the command center, over 10 kilometers away, live indicators were refreshed continuously. Wind southwest, Beaufort 2, visibility 3,800 meters. On the Russian side, no UAVs were detected. Fire control radar was inactive. EW had not yet engaged. Everything was held. The kill chain waited for the column to advance 1,400 meters. The BRM-1K had to enter a clearing between two tree belts. The lead track had to roll onto a pre-marked rut. These coordinates had been marked 3 days earlier. At 8 a.m., Furia reported the column turning into the Shakov intersection. The lead BMP-2 accelerated and 2 tanks followed, spaced about 35 meters apart. The BRM-1K command vehicle rolled into the clearing, presenting the intended signature at the pre-calculated point. At the forward control node, the Azov Brigade commander issued encrypted authorization. Go Alpha, confirm. BAT-M 270, target GR 6229, fire 1. The ambush began immediately. Rocket artillery from M270 systems behind Nova Pill fired a coordinated salvo with M30 A1G MLRS cluster warheads. The warheads were programmed to airburst. 23 seconds later, they detonated 20 to 30 meters above the lead vehicles, spreading lethal fragments and blocking the roadway. The effects were immediate. A BMP-2's turret ring was wrecked, and smoke poured from its ammunition compartment. The crew escaped through hatches. A BMP-3's left track was hit, and it toppled into a furrow. One T-72B3 was grazed by fragments and veered into a field edge, losing mobility. The other T-72B3 was hit by debris, not disabled, but pulled away and halted for inspection. Within 40 seconds, the marching order collapsed. Rear vehicles reversed and streamed into fields. Internal communications were severed. Individual units improvised exit maneuvers. While the formation writhed, a PTKM-1R mine detonated under a Ural 4320 ammunition truck. The rear axle and driveline were destroyed. Loose 122mm rounds scattered. Secondary detonations ignited a fire column nearly 10 meters high. A backward shock wave sent fragments flying. The BRM-1K behind the Ural took a heavy fragment strike to its radio mast. Its command suite was destroyed. The vehicle careened into the field and jammed on its front gear. The second Ural lost control after being blinded by dirt and debris. An MTLB towing a repair trailer tried to move clear but got stuck in the mud. Surviving vehicles attempting flank exits ran into lateral minefields. A BMP-3 rolled onto a TM-62 side charge and overturned. Its turret was separated from the hull. A following T-9A detonated another mine, collapsing its nose and producing black smoke. 3 more vehicles were removed from the fight. The corridor closed. Swamp ahead, fire and wreckage behind, and lateral minefields blocking detour routes. Artillery strikes followed by timed mines paralyzed the convoy's mobility and command structure. The ambush then used its final kinetic layer. At 8:10 a.m., 3 FPV suicide drones launched from positions about 2 kilometers from the site. They flew in a fan pattern to strike the immobilized formation. The first FPV hit the BRM-1K from the southeast at roughly 130 kilometers per hour. It penetrated the radio control module and destroyed the command cab, erasing the central coordination node. The second FPV struck the rear KMAZ fuel truck. The penetrator breached the tank compartment and detonated, creating a massive fireball and a black smoke column that covered the paddies and reduced visibility. The third FPV hit a BMP-2 maneuvering its turret, striking the drive cluster and destroying its main gun control. From the initial artillery salvo to the last FPV impact, the coordinated strike lasted 6 minutes and 41 seconds. No effective return fire occurred. No suppression or relief elements engaged. No reinforcements arrived during the window. 10 minutes after the final strike, ground reconnaissance teams advanced from the north. They used low-altitude drones and helmet cameras to document the site. Imagery confirmed the material tally. 9 armored vehicles destroyed completely, 4 AFVs immobilized, 4 vehicles abandoned, and 4 vehicles unaccounted for. By 8:25, the entire Russian column in the Malanifa to Shakov corridor had been neutralized. The Dorilia strike severed the primary supply line for the Russian task group connecting Shakov to Mykolaiv. Tanks and artillery were waiting on resupply. Shells, fuel, and repair parts were left without expected sustainment. The Russian mechanized brigade tasked with the western push postponed its planned breakthrough, not due to manpower shortage, but due to lack of ammunition and fuel. Within 48 hours after the ambush, Ukraine recorded a 36% drop in Russian artillery rounds fired across adjacent sectors. Some armored units canceled assault plans, shifted to passive defense, or requested resupply from the eastern flank. Logistical pressure shifted rearward and clogged an already strained Russian supply network. By 8:50 a.m., organizational and procedural adjustments across the Russian logistics and command apparatus were apparent and immediate. The Malanifa route was reclassified as high risk, forcing subsequent convoys to detour via Novodonki or secondary corridors and increasing transit times from approximately 2 hours to nearly 6 hours per mission. Long single-move convoys were prohibited, and movements were split into smaller packets of 4 to 5 trucks, reducing per-move tonnage but producing transport congestion and sharply lowering throughput. Escort packages were augmented. Additional short-range air defense assets such as ZSU-23 systems and TORM-2 units were attached to convoys, along with extra EW teams. The reallocation of these escorts meant fewer combat units were available on the front line. Every resupply corridor now requires pre-departure route clearance teams to sweep for mines and to identify and neutralize FPV launch nodes. It lengthened mission preparation and increased manpower demands. These changes did not constitute an instant strategic defeat, but they forced Moscow to expend additional time, fuel, and technical assets. In modern mechanized operations, tempo is a strategic resource. When tempo is cut and operating costs double without achieving a breakthrough, operational effectiveness degrades. The Shakov engagement forced Russia to absorb those costs. Information operations exploited the tactical result. The Azov Brigade released a 2-minute UAV video the same day showing the strike aftermath. The visuals included a T-72 abandoned mid-road with its turret canted at roughly 45 degrees, a charred BMP with its track thrown 15 meters from the hull, and the BRM-1K command vehicle reduced to a smoking steel frame. The footage propagated quickly across Telegram channels, military-oriented social platforms, Western press, and Russian opposition outlets. Analysts and media characterized the event as a textbook illustration of a multi-layered kill chain. It included reconnaissance, EW-enhanced precision artillery, directional mines, kamikaze drones, and post-strike reconnaissance. This was not a single lucky hit, but an organized chain of destruction executed layer by layer, minute by minute, roll by roll. The psychological effect on operations was evident. If a well-organized column with lead tanks, armed escorts, and repair vehicles could be neutralized in under 7 minutes by a networked combination of drones and precision rockets, the message was clear. Sustainment movements required constant situational awareness and protective measures that extended beyond organic convoy defenses. Logistic choke points shifted, convoy doctrine changed, and the operational art of sustaining a forward mechanized assault was degraded by the event's effects on ammunition, expenditure rates, fuel distribution, and repair capacity. The technical and doctrinal implications were consequential and specific. The engagement validated a kill chain built from 3 principal elements. Persistent ISR generated precise geolocated targeting data. Synchronized multi-domain execution presented simultaneous effects. Precise timing within seconds forced behavioral reactions into engineered vulnerabilities. Sensor-to-shooter latency was minimized by direct encrypted streams from Furia and Mavic platforms into the forward artillery control center. FLIR and thermal analytics identified high-signature command nodes and pressurized fuel systems as primary effectors. Orthophoto-referenced guidance and tuned emitter avoidance profiles allowed low-altitude FPVS to navigate the cropland environment while minimizing RF exposure. Timed mine initiation produced the formationed dislocation necessary for the GMLRS and FPV strikes to achieve maximum systemic breakdown. If you want more real combat analyses told without filters or fiction, subscribe and enable notifications. The next mission debrief is already in production.